Meeting to order, and we're going to get started with resolution number 485, 2021, levying special district taxes for the conduct of special districts in certain towns in the county of Columbia.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, resolution 486, 2021. Levying taxes and assessments required for the purpose of the annual budgets for the towns and villages of the county of Columbia.
Move that, Yuri.
Second split.
Go ahead.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution 487, 2021, levying aggregate taxes and warrants issued.
I'll move it.
Kippy.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, 488, 2021, authorization for the chairman of the board to renew the agreement and UHY Advisors, Inc., CPAs and County Independent Audit and Accounting Services firm.
I'll move it.
We have a motion and a second. I think Ron
Wait,
seconded it.
I was going to say who,
I think Rob, right?
Yeah, I moved it, I think.
thank you.
Rob and Ron Knott seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, resolution number 489, 2021, the relevying of 2021 to 2022 return school taxes.
Move that, Yuri.
Sterling, second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, 490, 2021, modifying the annual salaries of non-human union management personnel, non-using licensed professional personnel, and non-elected, non-union, non-management, confidential, exempt class, and unclassified personnel of the County of Columbia.
Move it, Kippy.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, resolution number 491, 2021, authorization to contract for professional consultant services in connection with technical support, maintenance services, and training related to the operations of the MIS department.
Chris Sweet is on if anybody has any questions.
I'll move it, Scalera.
Sterling, second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, 492, 2021, authorization for the chairman to apply for and receive funding under the 2020 Community Development Block Grant, Coronavirus and Aid, Relief and Economic Security Act Program, Farm Worker Safety Housing Grant.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 493, 2021, authorization for the chairman of the Board of Supervisors to apply for a federal assistance grant for the Terminal Apron Rehabilitation Project, Design Phase 2022.
Move it, Kippy.
Sterling, second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That's it.
Okay, for the Finance Committee? If not,
Motion to adjourn.
adjourn. We have a
So moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. So we'll move on to the 3 o'clock regular meeting, full board.
Yes.
Okay, see everyone there.
Goodbye.
Happy New Year, everybody.
In the public hearing for local law 3 of 2021, I'd like to request the clerk call the roll.
Basson,
Here.
Weigelt,
Here.
Leader,
Here.
Benvenuto,
Here.
Stats,
Here.
Adams,
Here.
Mettler,
Here.
Collins,
Here.
Riley,
Here.
Eldridge,
Here.
Fury,
Here.
Kirsten,
Here.
Ligonia,
Here.
Sterling,
Here.
Mia, Chamidas,
Here.
Mussman. Oh, did Linda not get on? Scalera,
Here.
Guzzi,
Here.
Hoatling,
Here.
Morel,
Here.
Knott,
Here.
Skoda. $33-12 present, 223 absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the clerk, read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that on the 28th day of December 2021 at 3 p.m., the Columbia County Board of Supervisors shall hold a public hearing virtually on YouTube pursuant to Municipal Home Rule Law 20, Subsection 5, on the enactment of Local Law 3 of 2021, establishing the salaries of certain officers of the County of Columbia. Persons wishing to speak at the public hearing for the local law need to contact Supervisor's clerk at area code 518-828-1527 or at her email kelly.picaro@columbiacountyny.com before 4 p.m. on December 27th, 2021 to register to speak. Upon registration, a link will be provided for you to join the public hearing portion of the meeting. The proposed local law is subject to permissive referendum pursuant to subsection 24-2-H of the Municipal Home Rule Law. The notice is given pursuant to the directive of the Columbia County Board of Supervisors dated December 14th, 2021, Hudson, New York. Kelly S. Picaro, Clerk of the Columbia County Board of Supervisors.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from supervisors? Any comments from supervisors? Any comments? I don't believe there's any public on there. Nobody signed up, Kelly?
No.
Okay. With that, I'll close the public hearing. And we need to take a roll call vote.
Okay, hold on just 1 second. We're clearing the current.
Yep.
Kelly,
Yes,
did you see that Linda joined?
yes, I did. Thank you. Weigel,
Yes.
Leader,
Yes.
Benvenuto,
Yes.
Stats,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Mettler,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Eldridge,
Yes.
Fury,
Yes.
Kirsten,
Yes.
okay, thank you. Ligonia,
Yes.
Sterling,
Yes.
Mia, Chamidas,
Yes.
Mussman.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you, Kelly, for
You're welcome.
getting me at the right place. Thanks.
Scalera,
Yes.
Guzzi,
Yes.
Hoatling,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Knott,
Yes.
Skoda. $149. Okay, 3386A, 149 nay. The local law passes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll close the public hearing, and I think we have to go on to another link.
We do for full board.
Okay. See you all there. Meeting to order. Please rise for a silent prayer and a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To
the flag
To the flag
of the United States
of the
of
United
America
States of America,
and
to the republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
God.
indivisible, with liberty and
with
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Okay, I'm going to request the clerk call the roll.
Okay, Basson,
Here.
Weigel.
Where'd he go?
We lost Kippy somewhere along the way. Oh,
There he is.
there he is. Weigel,
Here.
Leader,
Here.
Benvenuto,
Here.
Stats,
Here.
Adams,
Here.
Metler,
Here.
Collins,
Here.
Riley,
Here.
Eldridge,
Here.
Fury,
Here.
Houston,
Here.
Ligonia,
Here.
Sterling,
Here.
Mia, Chimidas,
Here.
Mussman,
Here.
Scalera,
Here.
Guzzi,
Here.
Holtling,
Here.
Morel,
Here. Here.
Escoda. $33.86 present, 149 absent. We have a quorum.
Okay. I need a motion to pay the bills, accept the treasurer's report, and file the minutes within the clerk's office.
So moved.
Second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, I've got some tokens of recognition that we want to present to I will say that it's been a pleasure serving with all of you. It's been a tumultuous couple of years, and unfortunately, it seems like I knew for a while longer. But I do want to say goodbye to some of our supervisors who are leaving us, and tell them how much we appreciate their work during the last few years. The first person we want to honor is Patrice Patsy Leader, the Columbia County. Patrice Patsy Leader, Town of Kinderhook, for service to the residents of the county as town supervisor in 2020-21. Patsy, we want to say thank you, and we appreciate your candor and humor throughout this whole process. And I know that Kinderhook is going to miss you. Thank you.
I'm going to miss them too. Thank you. And here's one for all you, Kippy especially. But I will say, it's been interesting, but you got to realize I've been doing something for Kinderhook for 12 years. And it's like volunteer work, which we all do, but we love it. And it will never stop. I'll continue to help people and be there for the town and the county and whoever needs me. Communication is the best. Talk to people.
Collins, Chatham, I'm going to miss you.
Well, that
I'm
was
going to miss you too, but now I'm going to be there tomorrow to pick up that delivery for you, so don't worry.
Well, Patsy, again, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
And I know you'll continue to serve your residents.
I have to. Thank you.
The next plaque we would be presenting, and I must say this is not the same. I'd rather be doing this in person, but is to the Columbia County Board of Supervisors recognizes Robert W. Bury, Town of Germantown, for your service to the residents of Columbia County as town supervisor from 2018 to 2021. Rob, it's been a pleasure working with you. I've from the perspective of both sides of the aisle. You started with us and ended with someone else, but you were always there when we needed you in terms of being on certain committees. So we greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you for these past 4 years. Some of you just 2 years, but again, it's been one of the highlights of my career. Thank you very much. I'll always remember this.
And I will say that the plaques are here to pick up. So when you're in town, you can pick your plaque up. But Kelly actually took pictures of them, which is kind of nice. Next, the Columbia County Board of Supervisors recognizes Sarah H. Sterling, Hudson First Ward, for your service to the county residents of Columbia County as supervisor from 2012 to 2021 and as minority leader from 2018 to 2021. Just want to say, Sarah, it's been a pleasure working with you and your professionalism, and I'm going to miss seeing you around. Hopefully you'll still stop in and say hello. And we appreciate all you've done for the county and the residents of the city of Hudson.
Thank you. It's been to serve along all sides of you. All of you. I hate public speaking. That's the only good thing about this. There have been some tough times for sure, but together we solved them. And I respect and admire the continuing efforts of this group to keep this county with a balanced budget and making sure that so many receive so many needed services. I'm going to consider this not as a retirement, but a graduation as I move to my next adventure. So I'll let you know what that is. And to all of you, especially Matt and Kelly, for their tireless dedication and hard work. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
You are the best, Sarah.
you.
Thanks.
And last but not least, the Columbia County Board of Supervisors recognizes Michael L. Benvenuto, Town of Ghent, for his service to the residents of the county as Town Supervisor 2014 to 2021, and Majority Leader from 2020 and to 21. So, Mike, you know, I know that you're, being a supervisor sometimes got in the way of your many trips, but we appreciate all you've done for the county. I will say that Mike and I have gone way, way back. We're actually friends before we both got on the board. I was actually at both of his weddings and in one of his weddings. So, you know, we are good friends, and I'm going to miss him.
Me too. Well, you didn't have to bring that first wedding up, but okay. Yeah, I, you know, it was a lot more enjoyable when we could all get together and have meetings, but it is what it is. You know, enjoyed everybody, and yeah, keep up the good work. Thank you all for your service.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike, have a good time.
Thanks, Skippy.
Have fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss you too, neighbor. Collins, Chatham.
Actually, I have a gift for Mike.
Uh-oh. Oh.
You would hang a City of Hudson plaque, wouldn't you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that's yours.
Okay, and the last plaque we have is for our outgoing sheriff. It's the Columbia County Board of Supervisors recognizes David P. Bartlett, County Sheriff, for providing years of safety and service to the residents of Columbia County as a county sheriff from 2014 to 2021. He couldn't be with us today, but we appreciate his service to the residents of Columbia County and wish him well in his future endeavors.
Here, here.
Here, here.
Okay, thank you. We're going to ask the clerk read the resolutions.
Okay, resolution 485 of 2021 to 493 of Mr. Sterling.
Mr. Chairman, I offer you these resolutions for adoption.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. That's it, Kelly?
That was all the resolutions.
Okay. Does any supervisors have anything to bring to the board? Okay.
Thanks, guys. I'll be watching you.
Yeah.
Chairman, this is Ray Stats. Can I say something quick?
Sure.
First, thank you. I'd just like to extend a thank you again to Ron Campanera for the several years of service. I believe I was the only supervisor remaining on the board that was on his interview committee the first time around. And I have to say, I knew then when we hired him that he did great things for the county, and he's never disappointed me. Didn't always agree with him, but he never let us down on his ability to take care of the county's finances and the budget. So I really want to extend a thank you to him and his service to the county.
Thank you, Ray. I have your cell phone. Don't worry about it. Number.
One other thing.
You were on the first committee, and Art Basson was on the second round of interviews. So both you guys.
Well, good luck, Ron. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Ray. I really appreciate that.
And lastly, Chairman, I'd just like to again extend my disappointment that we are not still changing this and meeting in person. I know you've told me before the numbers are rising, but we still expect our kids to go to school and responsibly wear masks and get together. Restaurants are open to full capacity, businesses are operating, but yet, responsible and that. So I really would like us to start meeting in person as soon as we can going into the new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Kippy?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say, wish everybody a happy new year. I hope the new year is going to be better than the last year. We'll see what happens with the pandemic. And like I said, we get together. And first off, I'd like to say, Patsy and everybody else that's retiring, I am going to have a cocktail tonight on you guys, even though I don't drink. So you're all liable if I do something stupid. Have a happy new year.
Thanks, Kippy.
Thank you, I think.
Any other
I'm gonna miss
comments?
you, Kippy.
Yeah.
I was going to thank Ron, but I also, for his service to the county. He's done a great job, from the financial perspective. But I also wanted to thank Rick Giuliano, who's also retired, as well as Mike Myers, our purchasing agent, who retired. And we had a little get together for him last week, which I thought was very nice. Kelly did and staff did a great job in pulling that together. Ron's holding up his plaque to show everyone. And Mike Myers all plaques as well for leaving. And with that, I wanted to welcome Jim, new controller, Chris Sweet, our new information officer, and Marissa Hogenkamp, our new purchasing agent. So we were able to make the transition.
Been a pleasure, Matt.
Thanks, Ron.
All the other supervisors.
Thank you, Ron.
Chairman PJ Keeler has his hand
Yep.
raised.
PJ, what's up? You're on mute.
Love technology, I tell you. I just want to publicly thank Ron for everything he's done. I came from the private sector with a long, many years of business background. I didn't have the municipal accounting ability behind me, but Ron schooled me along, taught me a lot. I think together, Ron and I did real well for the county. We brought some business sense to county government, and Ron and I did a great deal to move. He has done a tremendous job, and I just want to publicly thank him for all that he's done and wish him well on his retirement.
Thanks, PJ. And I know you got my cell number too.
I got it. Don't worry.
Supervisor Holtland.
Okay, we've been a good team together. I'll tell you that. Very good.
I just wanted to thank all of the outgoing supervisors. You're going to be sorely missed, and it's been really wonderful working with all of you over the last 2 years. And like Sarah said, graduating on to the next big adventure, and I can't wait to hear what that is. So thank you all for your dedication.
So what we're going to do, first I'm going to wish everyone a happy new year. And we'll see you at our next meeting. But what we're going to do is we're going to adjourn this meeting, take a 5-minute break, and then get back together for the overview on emergency management. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Chairman, I'm sorry, could I make one comment? Someone texted me that the YouTube thread is on and off, so I know there's a lot of public watching for the emergency management. I don't know if during the break Oswaldo can just check that connection so that the next meeting is viewable. Thank you. Sorry, Mike.
Thank you.
Is it the same connection?
We appear to be having some computer issues down here at the county because I went out for a minute or two. So hopefully Oswaldo is set to go.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be the same link we're on right now.
Yeah, we're all going to stay right here.
So I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Menudo, second, Patsy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. So we'll reconvene at probably 3:30, 3:31.
Okay.
Right on this link here?
Right on this link. You don't have to even sign off.
You can just turn your camera off and your
a while ago, I had said that we would have a meeting with the supervisors. I've also invited elect Don Kraft and Under Sheriff elect Jackie Salvatore to participate in this. I've also invited the incoming supervisors to also be involved in this conversation. As you know, you all received a fact sheet that we sent out, which I thought covered a lot of information. And I think this is mainly what we're here to do. Before I turn it over to David Harrison, mainly what we're here to do is to answer your questions based on the information that we gave you. Before I do hand it over, I just want to clarify one thing. On the news about a week or so ago, it was stated that we were going to hire a full-time emergency management director if we made this move, and also a sort of coordinator type clerk or clerical person that was going to cost the county money. Both of those statements were not true. We have no intention of hiring a full-time director of emergency management. We've never had any intention of doing that. And in terms of the coordinator clerical position, it was stated that only if we could get grant money and fund it at 100%. And that would be probably 2 years down the road. So I just wanted to clear up that misinformation. And with that, I'm going to, well, first of all, I'm going to turn it over to David Harrison. But then if we can raise your hands for questions or comments, we'll go in that order. Kelly and I can keep track of that. So David Harrison, you're on.
Thank you, Chairman, and please forgive me. I'm in my office at the public safety facility, and this desktop does not have a camera, so you're not able to see my face. But we did present the fact sheet. All this information has been discussed during meetings with Sheriff-elect Kraft. We did delay. The chairman did delay the process so that those meetings could be held and a informational meeting could be held with the Board of Supervisors. So if you have any questions, we're here to answer those. Any concerns, we're here to address those. And I appreciate the chance to do that. I do feel strongly that this is in the best interest of public safety and of certainly emergency management going forward. Thank you.
Anybody have questions or comments? Supervisor Oatling.
Hi. I want to thank you for having this meeting. I was caught off guard in the public safety meeting because although it had been discussed somewhere for a long time, I being on public safety for 2 years, had not heard of it. I knew we were talking about moving the physical location, but as far as the oversight of the office, that was a first for me. So I had a few questions that might or might not be able to be answered today, and if not, I would welcome an email from David Harrison or the chairman or whoever appropriate. My first question has to do with data. In 2011, when emergency management was moved under the sheriff's office, it was for efficiency. And I understand now a little bit better, it seems that it was a financial efficiency. But I want to see data that shows the operation of the office when it was not under the sheriff's office prior to 2011 versus now. And does the data show a less efficient office when it's under the sheriff's office? Because it seems the same argument is being made now in 2021 that was made in 2011, that it's going to be more efficient. But that was the argument that was made to put it under the sheriff's office. And so I'd like to see some data. I don't know how we measure what data we look at to see the efficiency of an office such as emergency management. Maybe it's response time. Obviously with COVID, things have changed tremendously for the emergency management office. But I'd like to see something tangible to show, yes, we thought it was going to be more efficient under the sheriff's office. It actually isn't. We have response times that are longer, and here is why. So obviously, I don't think anyone can provide that data on this call, but that is something I'd like to see. I'd like to make a decision based on data and facts and statistics. David, do you think you might be able to answer that question?
I can't speak for before 2011, but I can tell you that the efficiency comes from being able to have a full-time presence with emergency management as it evolved. So, emergency management and the responsibilities and duties have increased, and the interaction with New York State and with many of the other partners that we deal with has only grown. And when we talked about efficiency then, it was about restructuring emergency management so that there was a full-time person available when it was needed. And we were able to do that with a lieutenant within the sheriff's office who was able to handle emergency management and was also the chairman of the LEPC, which is the Local Emergency Preparedness Committee, and available full-time when needed for emergency management issues. I was a sheriff at the time. I thought it worked very well. As you know, I decided not to run again, and I left the end of December in 2013. When I came back, I was asked about a year after I left if I was told Bill Black wanted to retire, and I wasn't in a position at that time that was something I wanted to do. I was asked again in 2018 and said that Bill Black is retiring. I was asked if I would take the part-time position. At that point, I said I would. When I came back, I realized that emergency management after 2014 had been restructured again. Full-time presence away from emergency management, in that the lieutenant that was assigned, Tom Lamphere left. He was promoted to captain, then he retired. The office was restructured, and we had a liaison, another lieutenant from the jail who was a liaison. His name is Bill Hilscher. He does a fabulous job. However, his duties are purely part-time. His jail duty first, he has added jail duties. His emergency management duties are only when he can get to those. And he does make a very good effort. He's very good to work with. He's probably our top person with FEMA recovery issues, and he's been doing it a long time. However, he is purely part-time. So in my mind, the efficiency was lost. And, just the fact that this office, emergency management, has been restructured numerous times over the years, doesn't give it the stability and advocacy that it needs. In my opinion, it needs a department head that can go directly to the Board of Supervisors and advocate for what it needs, pursuant to what the duties are. And, it needs to be a place where it's going to stay. And that's best. And that's what's the most efficient. And really, that's, a good managerial move. And in my opinion, will allow it to evolve as it goes. The sheriff's office, we've tried many times, but as of now, the sheriff's office hasn't been able to give us a management or a records management program. There are some out there, however, that's there's a cost associated with it, and it's just not something they were able to work into their current programs. We tried different programs since 2018. One of them seemed to work with the assistance from MIS. However, at the end of 2019, that didn't continue to go into the next year. So that's something that we're going to have to deal with as well. So I don't know that you'll be able to be given data, and there's, as far as emergency management really is not a first response agency. Yes, we need to get there as soon as we can when we're needed to help manage and oversee a large scale incident or an area where a tornado's gone through or whatever. New York State is going to look for emergency management members to be their contact people. I can tell you now, whenever there's a storm, I have to report to statewide emergency management, New York State emergency management every 4 hours on weather conditions and things like that, which isn't always cool during the middle of the night, and they're very good about how they do that. But I don't know that you're going to have data that you can actually look at, but certainly efficiency and being able to provide the services, this would be a much better condition.
So thank you, David, for that. So if I'm understanding correctly, the efficiency in 2011 was majorly in part because you could take advantage of a full-time position within the sheriff's office. But then at some point that full-time position was removed, and that's when the efficiency was lost. Am I summarizing accurately?
Yes, that's a certain large part of it. Yes.
Okay.
The restructuring.
The restructuring. So I have more questions, and I'll let other supervisors go, but I'll let other supervisors ask their questions before I get to my other ones. But then my question becomes, is it really about where emergency management is located, or is it about emergency management needing at least one, if not more, full-time staff, especially now that the pandemic has kind of stepped up your workload as a department? Could it really just be about making sure that you have the full-time staff that you need versus what department or area you report to?
No, I think, there's certainly been situations where, the chairman of the board had one idea and the sheriff has had another. However, we've had good relationships with both, but it does put us in the middle sometimes. I just think that it's best for emergency management to be independent, allow us to go through the process to the board of supervisors that other independent departments have. Emergency management requires special training. All 5 of us have been through the New York State Emergency Management Academy and are certified as emergency managers. And, with the duties that we have and the people we interact with, it's much, much better that we are independent of any other agency. And, if certainly some of the problems that we had with being associated or being actually part of a law enforcement agency, I think if we were an independent department, we certainly wouldn't have those issues. And I feel it's best. I just, being a long-time public safety person, volunteer firefighter for 40 years, EMS first responder in the past, past sheriff's office member, past for 8 years, and along with a lot of our close partners, the EMS coordinator, the fire coordinator, 911 director, the past director, Bill Black, all these people feel that it's the best move for emergency management is for it to be independent. And I agree with it.
I would just like to add too, as chairman of the board, it's not just me, whoever the chairman of the board has to go through training every year as well in terms of dealing with emergencies. And I've had to do, since I've been chairman, I've had to do 5 refreshers every year to be able to, to deal with emergency situations. So it's, we work hand in hand. One of the things I've talked about, the pandemic, which is obviously a major health emergency. I've talked about snowpocalypse, which is that huge snowstorm we've had. We had the landslide, but I forget to talk about the power outages we've had because of high winds and massive snowstorms where people have lost power, and our emergency management office has been at the forefront of making sure that those people are taken care of, whether it's warming stations or cooling stations, getting them food and water and so on. Those are things that I've failed to talk about. But over the years we've had quite a few of those instances, right, Dave?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Supervisor Benvenuto, I think you were next.
Yeah, I just wanted to first thank Director Harrison for putting this fact sheet together. I mean, the ongoing assistance during the pandemic has been great help for the towns, obviously, for the public. Assistance with town emergency plans, as you state, the power outages. And, I worked with Director Harrison for years. I know him. I know what a good person he is. And, that's why I asked this, because it's important for me. I just want to know that Director Harrison wants to continue in this position. I hope that's the case, because I really think you've done a very good job, and should continue. So I just wanted to ask this publicly, if you're planning to do that.
Yeah, I have no plans to leave. Certainly, if this isn't an independent department, then I'm going to have to sit down with the sheriff-elect, or when he is the sheriff, and discuss the focus and the priorities for emergency management going forward. Because I don't feel it's best that it stays with the sheriff's office, and I've been on both sides. But certainly that's something, after that meeting, I would have to sit down and discuss it.
Okay, I think Don Kraft, sheriff-elect, was next.
Thank you, Chairman. And there was just at the beginning of the meeting, it was mentioned that there was no talk of a full-time position opening up or a clerk's position. We've had several meetings in regards to this matter, and two separate meetings we talked about a clerk's position that was going to be funded by a grant, and also eventually within another year or so, the director's position, which Director Harrison said it would be him in that case becoming a full-time position. That was my understanding. If there was some misreading into the conversation, I do apologize, but that was the way I understood it. Jackie and I have had several discussions with members of the sheriff's office, and this is one thing we need to remember as we talk about emergency management as its own separate entity currently, which it is not. So everything we're talking about was under the umbrella of the sheriff's office. So in fact, it's a division of the sheriff's office, no different than the security services division, the corrections division, the communications division. This is the sheriff's office, and these are all different divisions within. As the head of security services division, I just don't have the ability to say, I think that this division should no longer be under the sheriff's office. And if that is in fact the case here, then the sheriff should be here to report on that and confirming the fact that he feels that is best for the sheriff's office and best for the community which the sheriff's office serves. We're ready to go back to a full-time position if need be. We looked into that. It's a very interesting concept to go back to what we had when it originally came under the sheriff's office, under Sheriff Harrison, and led by, at that time, Lieutenant Lanfear. We had a meeting with
Thomas Lanfear, former lieutenant, former captain of the sheriff's office, about getting record management systems implemented into the sheriff's office for all divisions, so we can combat that one problem that we talked about earlier, not having any record management systems. We have, like I said, meetings set up for January. And, we're talking about answering to the Board of Supervisors if this becomes its own entity, but it appears that in the resolution that it's going to answer directly to the chairman. So I don't know if that was something that was misspoke about, misspoke by the director, or if this is going to be a division answering directly to the chairman or to the Board of Supervisors. And one other point that I want to bring up is that, as the incoming sheriff and Jackie as the incoming undersheriff, we are more than willing to take this training. I mean, I've been through IDF school. I've been through incident command as a supervisor, as a SWAT commander. We are not shying away from putting every effort into this division to make it a better, stronger unit within the sheriff's office. I don't think that currently, we had the opportunity to go and review data within the sheriff's office. And I would, again, ask the board to consider postponing this till we can get into the sheriff's office, review the data, have the conversations that need to be had to protect the safety and the infrastructure of the county. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe next was Michael Chimides.
Yes, thanks. And thanks for putting this meeting together and having this discussion. I think this is such a key, important issue, and I certainly want to be able to make an informed decision about how I'm going to vote. And I think the public also deserves to be able to understand this issue and understand what's happening with such a key service that the county provides. I also think that the process that we're doing for this is not right. We're not doing this in the right way, and that I think we've done such great work together, bipartisan work to serve our residents in the county. And I think the way that this is being proposed is not the best way. And what I would recommend is forming a bipartisan committee that has Republican and Democratic supervisors, that has stakeholders from emergency services, and then we can talk through the pros and cons of solutions and create a real plan for how to improve emergency management and related services going forward. And I think the way this is being proposed right now, it certainly looks political and it looks sort of slapdash and not planned out. And this is what I've seen, is that in November, the voters elected a sheriff to run the sheriff's office, to have oversight over emergency management. And immediately following the election, it was proposed that the board move a portion of the sheriff's office out of that department and it would have a different management. This was not the will of the voters. This was never presented prior to the election. We certainly could have discussed this as a board prior to the election, and we could have discussed this with the public prior to the election, and it wasn't done. And some supervisors are now claiming that this has been in the works for months or maybe even years. And if this is true, that's also quite curious and kind of alarming to me. That it meant that there was even a longer period of sort of secrecy and planning, that things were not brought up. And so there are lots of relevant meetings this could have been discussed at: public safety, police reform, county government, finance. We actually have weekly emergency management calls it could have been discussed at. And it wasn't discussed with the Democratic caucus, wasn't discussed with voters. Even this meeting itself, I'm not sure if this meeting was properly noticed. I don't know if it was like on how the public would know that this meeting was coming up or had access to the fact sheet. And so I think we're just sort of like missing out on an opportunity to sort of discuss things collectively and to sort of come up with the best solutions. And it actually is in stark contrast to a lot of the campaign messaging that was going on during the fall. And so I don't know what David Harrison said or was saying, but I certainly know that on Sheriff Bartlett's website, there is a letter signed by David Harrison saying, quote, "The sheriff is elected by the people to manage a multi-million-dollar budget." And then it goes on to include a lot of the services the sheriff provides, including, quote, emergency communications and emergency management divisions. And the letter was sort of written to saying is that one of the reasons why David Harrison was supporting Sheriff Bartlett to be sheriff was because of Sheriff Bartlett's ability to manage emergency management going forward. And so if at the exact same time there was actually a plan to move it out of emergency management, that's quite confusing to me. In addition to that, during the election, there were several Republican candidate mailings saying that Democrats, if in control, were going to defund the police, and that the Columbia County Republican Party actually sent out a fundraising campaign saying Democrats are going to defund the police, and that's why people should donate to the county Republicans. And so at the exact same time, potentially there was a plan to take a portion of the sheriff's office, take away that funding, and make an independent agency. And as the fact sheet that we put that was shared with us today, for the very specific reason is that people don't always trust law enforcement, and so you're maybe better off having an independent agency, which basically is articulating that is what the defund the police movement says. And so that wasn't coming from the Democratic Party. That was actually potentially being secretly planned during the fall elections at the same time as this other stuff. And so I don't know what happened or what didn't happen, but it's hard not to view this a partisan play and sort of cynically hiding things from at least half the board and the public. And so I think the way to get out of this partisanship is to create a bipartisan committee where we could go through the information and make a collective decision. And so I actually have still a lot of questions that just from this meeting about what's going on with emergency management. And it's going to be, I guess, a long meeting if we're supposed to sort of ask all the questions about creating a new department on a December 28th afternoon meeting, which I'm happy to sort of sit around and do that. But I think really the best path forward is to create a bipartisan committee, and that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Supervisor Adams.
Thank you, and thank you, Michael. I think you adroitly summarized a lot of my concerns and questions about process. I want to thank the sheriff for the fact sheet, but I think the distribution of the fact sheet was so late. I don't know that all supervisors received it in time to fully review the information, but I think it was also probably not available to the public. But I kind of see our role as one that is the view from 300 feet. What do we need to know to make an informed decision? And I agree with Tistria. I would love to see more data, but if that data cannot be supplied, I'd like to have at least a matrix or a grid or some kind of a summary that would tell us, what the current operational needs of the department are, how have they changed since 2011, and how are those needs being met by the current arrangement, and how would those needs be better met through the proposed new arrangement. I'd like to know what would be required in terms of additional staffing, equipment to meet current needs or future needs if the departments are separated. I'd like to know what additional money, if any, would be required to fund the move itself. And I'd like to know from a vision point of view, which is I think is our strongest responsibility, is what does the move accomplish, both in terms of short and long-term goals? I mean, are we talking about providing better, more efficient services? Are we relieving a space shortage in the current space? Is this a chance to upgrade technology? Is it an opportunity to grow the department, improve the interagency access? None of those things, I think, have been expressed in a way that will allow us to make an informed decision. So I just really feel, I couldn't agree more with what Supervisor Chimiti said, that this process feels slapdash and it feels rushed. And I think that it's, for me, not only is this an important decision because it's such an important department, but the timing of this right now in the context of the new variant and the rate of infection rates in the county, this seems to me like the worst possible time to make a change like this. So thank you.
I know that David Harrison had his hand up. Dave, do you have anything that you want to add?
Point address Sheriff Lefkraft's comment. You must have misunderstood that there would be a full-time director's position. It absolutely was never discussed by me. I did say that I would stay as director. I would stay as a part-time director. The only position would be a full-time coordinator clerk, non-management position. That would be civil service. And also, Supervisor Adams, I just, during our conversation, a lot of the stuff you didn't bring up when you contacted me, and actually at the end of the phone conversation, you were leaning towards that it was a good move. I think a lot of your questions can be answered by the information in the fact sheet. And I've only spoken to two supervisors, Supervisor Adams and Supervisor Metler, who are opposed to this, and no one else has contacted me for information. Although they may have contacted the chairman of the board or someone else. I can't say for sure, but that's it. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Metler. I was on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Hi. So, actually, Director Harrison is a little bit wrong because I'm not necessarily opposed to this. And I want to thank him and also Rob Lagonia for their time. We talked for about an hour last week, and I learned a lot about the issues here. I was grateful and they spent with me and the information that I gathered. And down the road, I would be very open to making the Emergency Management Office an independent office for reasons that I won't go into here. But what's bothering me about this is the timing of it, and I've shared this concern with. Look at, we're here on this meeting today on a Zoom call, and Don Kraft, I'm not even sure where he is. I think he maybe is in his house or an office with Jackie, and he should be addressing us today on this subject from an office. He should have the flag behind him. He should have the sheriff's seal behind him. He should be addressing us as the sheriff of Columbia County. But he's not, because he hasn't taken office. He's not speaking to us with the authority of the position to which he was elected. He doesn't have access to the data yet. He's here like as the understudy, as the sheriff to be. And I don't think that that's fair to Sheriff Kraft. And I am fair to the people who elected him. Don Kraft is not necessarily entitled to keep the EMO under his control. That decision will be up to us at some point. That's up to the Board of Supervisors. But Don Kraft is certainly entitled to the respect of this board. So whether any of you voted for Don Kraft or whether you didn't, in a few short days, he's about to be sworn in as sheriff of this county. And if we expect that the public will respect his authority, that respect must start here today with this body. To rush to diminish his role without giving him the opportunity to defend his position as sheriff is to disrespect him and is to disrespect the office of the sheriff. But I have another concern, which also goes to timing. In the past 2 years, under the leadership of Director Harrison, the Emergency Management Office confronted the most desperate public health challenge this county has faced in 100 years. The strongest argument against changing the Emergency Management Office is their track record of success in the past 2 years. And so you have to say, if it's not broken, what are we fixing? But there's another concern. Even if there are advantages to a freestanding office in the future, that change should not be considered now. Just this afternoon, I received the chairman's press release telling us that by midday today, we had 91 new cases of COVID-19 infection. And today's midday number of 91 is by far the highest one-day total in the county since the beginning of the pandemic. Our infection rate is at 11.55%. This is not the time to be talking about changing the administration. It's not the time to be talking about moving the furniture down the hall, the county, to a different office. All of our resources at this moment, all of our resources and all of these should be directed to fighting this public health crisis, which has just risen and for 2 months proven deadly. I urge the Board of Supervisors to pause. Let's press the pause button and allow this sheriff-elect to take office, give him some time, and then hear his side of the story. Let him address this board in February, once he's had the time to review the data in the office to which he's about to ascend. By which time in February, we'll hopefully be seeing the end of this spike of the Omicron surge. Because if what we truly care about, and I believe that we all truly care about this most, what we care about is the quality of emergency management services to the people of this county. And February will be the time to consider that question. In a few moments, I have to log off because prior to the scheduling of this discussion, I had already scheduled my end of year meeting for the Copiague Town Board. And so I will be joining them. But I hope you hear what I'm have to say. It's not about being against the idea. It's about being against the timing. Thank you.
Supervisor.
Chairman.
Supervisor Sturman.
Yeah, just one quick thing, and thank you all again for everything. What disturbs me is the records management program that David Harrison said ended in 2019, and they're still struggling with that. And when we're looking forward to police reform and all of this, if it sounds like there's no record management program, and how are we going to defend actions in the sheriff's office or emergency management or anything if we don't have a proper records management program? Thank you.
I believe they are looking into a records management program. Supervisor Oltling, can you address that? I know that the Sheriff Bartlett had a program.
I would think that's an emergency.
Are you talking about the resolution that the board passed for the contract with the
Yes.
vendor?
Yes.
Yeah. Was financial potential issue there where that vendor, we found out later, BlackRock or whatever, had actually donated to the campaign. So I don't know where that got caught up with the county attorney, but this board did pass a resolution to contract, I believe it was BlackRock, for the records management access, but I didn't know if.
I'd have to check on that then.
Okay.
That's Black Creek.
Black Creek, thank you.
Okay. David Harrison, you have your hand up before we go to.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Supervisor Medler for the kind words she said about our work during the pandemic. And, you know, it's the same view as far as, you know, the public safety leaders all agreeing that this is a good move for the sheriff's office. You kind of presented it as though we're going to allow people to or less to somehow lag, and that's absolutely not true. And you know, the way that you present it is that it absolutely does not. Any move like this has been well thought out. It won't affect the sheriff's office. It won't affect emergency management whatsoever, except to be, you know, a better fit and a better motion, and allow us to move forward and keep up with current trends. Like I said, all the public safety leaders have had input on this. I mean, Sheriff-elect Kraft himself has been a longtime member of the sheriff's office, and he himself says that he really doesn't have that much knowledge on emergency management. And I would expect that if you contacted, you know, other members of the sheriff's office, they would say the same thing. You know, we really aren't that embedded within the sheriff's office that us moving to another building that's already ready for us to move into, and basically it's just a matter of moving computers to another location, is going to affect what we do. But absolutely not. There will be no lag in the service, and there's no money that's needed. no additional money that's needed. It's just a matter of transferring the budget that's already, and it's really, I know that there's people making it a political issue here, but it's really not that. It's about emergency management going back to what it was before 2011 and continuing on as an independent department. Thank you.
Thanks. Supervisor Mussman.
I would like to see us pause on this issue. It's complicated, clearly. Sheriff Bartlett is not even on this call. It's very difficult for me personally to listen to David Harrison because I can't see his face. And it seems like an important meeting that he could have made an arrangement to have us actually see him speak. It is clearly political, and to save face, to get the egg off of the face of the Board of Supervisors who have put this idea forward. I think it's a good idea to create a committee that would have time to analyze and allow the sheriff-elect to, as Gene Metler says, to, be in a position where he has a voice of authority and not speaking as an understudy. It's very upsetting to hear that this has been going on and on and on and on, and I certainly have never heard of it. And I listened to most of the meetings, and I'm very frustrated. It seems like we have a chance to back up, take a break, and get it right. So that's my request, that we step back. Thank you.
I will like to say that there have never been any meetings to have this discussion, any formal or informal meetings. I do know that David Harrison and Sheriff Bartlett did have discussions early on in the year, which I wasn't aware of until I actually talked to David Harrison. I had the thought myself, because I often wondered, why is the Sheriff's Department involved when the chairman of the Board of Supervisors has to be the person that declares the state of emergency and is in constant contact with the Emergency Management Office. That was, but there were two separate lines of thinking. There were no organized or unorganized meetings to even have these discussions. So I don't want that out there because it's not true. What Supervisor Chimides was saying, he was surmising, which was not the case. It just so happened that, we were having a discussion recently, when I say recently, mid-November, and it just made perfect sense to be able to do something like this, especially when, and if you look at the law says that the chairman of the board or the chief elected official is the only one that can declare a state of emergency. And I will tell you, for the last 2 years, I've been intimately involved in this state of emergency on an hourly, minute by minute, hourly, daily basis. So, Supervisor Lagonia?
Yes, hi. I know how this feels to everyone that it's political, but I can tell you, at least from my position and standpoint, it's absolutely not political. And I want to state clearly here that we've also met with Sheriff-elect as well as Jackie on 2 or 3 separate occasions to discuss all of this. And I also want to say that I'm excited about both of them starting and what the future holds for Columbia County. But I can tell you that from my standpoint, for the last 2 years of being deeply embedded in this pandemic, which as far as I know, it's probably the largest emergency situation we've ever had in Columbia County. We can talk about the snow apocalypse and we can talk about a mudslide, but this has been an incredible challenge for those that have been involved, and it's going to continue to be a tremendous challenge. And I'm going to tell you that, at least from my perspective, why this has worked is because we had a bipartisan group of people that were not much of the involved was the Sheriff's Department. Chairman put together a group of people. Tistria Hodling was on it. Sarah Sterling is on it. I'm on it. Jack Mabb's on it. We had Director of Social Services on it. David Harrison. We have everybody. But in the beginning, we started off with 7 days a week. We have a phone call. We discuss all of the emergency issues day by day, hour by hour. If anything comes up, there's updated emails. It went from 7 days to possibly 5 days to 3 days. We're at 2 days at this point in time. And what has worked to keep Columbia County, and I'm very proud of it, to where we are. We've had 112 deaths in Columbia County. I think we had another death today, unfortunately, out of 60,000 people. And I think Columbia County should be commended on the job that we've done, and we've done collectively. And it's because of the group of people that was put together, and no dig on Sheriff Bartlett, and by no means any dig on the incoming sheriff, but that department was not all that involved. It was because of this group of people that have worked incredibly hard to keep everybody safe in Columbia County. That and I have to give most of the props to David Harrison, who was the head of the emergency services. He has just done an outstanding job to keep all of us safe. And because of those reasons, not for political reasons, and we can make it all political as everybody wants, I realize the timing seemed off, and I can't dispute any of that. And I also want to say that I want to thank everybody for these fantastic comments, because they all make sense. But to me, who's been deeply embedded in this and who's been at start, what has worked is our group of people that have been put together, a lot of smart minds that have been dedicated and worked very hard, which to me proves that that department should be answering to the chairman, whoever that person is, whether it's Matt Morrell or somebody else, or whether we change to a legislature and that is the county manager. That department should stand alone, as do the other departments, and it should not be commingled with the sheriff's department. I don't think that that individual should have two bosses. I think that person should answer to the chairman of the board, whoever that is. And someone asked the question, well, is he answering to the chairman or is he answering to the board? Of course, that person answers to the chairman. As do anybody in any event. They don't go to each individual board member. And then the chairman, who we elect, is the one who represents all of us. And we have to have the faith in that chairman, whoever we elect as a board, to make decisions for all of our towns. So to say that, he's going to answer to Matt Morrell, yes, Matt Morrell is the current chairman, but that may not be in the future. And at some point, we need to make this, we should stop convoluting this position, put it as a standalone position. We have the space for it. The sheriff, the newly elected sheriff, who I have a lot of faith in, will work closely, hand in hand with the emergency services. Nothing will change there. And for me personally, who's been very involved for the last 2 years, I see that as the correct path for Columbia County. Whether anybody else wants to make this political, whoever wants to make this whatever, it's not political for me. I look at things as what I think are working. This is working. When everybody says don't change what's working is that it's a standalone and it's answering to the chairman. It's what's working is what we're doing. It's not to be going back under potentially somebody else and having two different bosses. So for me, it seems to be the right decision. It's the right thing to keep our county safe. And again, I think David Harrison is the perfect person for that. So I fully support it for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Eldridge.
What Bob Lagonia just said is what I wanted to hear. I heard all the negative arguments. I wanted to hear some positive argument as to it should be now. And if there's anybody else that can speak up on what they feel is positive, why it should be done now instead of after Sheriff-elect takes office, I would appreciate that.
PJ, do you have anything you want to add? You're on mute, PJ.
I love technology, I'm telling you. I just want to throw my EMS coordinator hat on. For those of you who don't know, I've been the EMS coordinator since the year 2000. I'm in my 21st year. I have grown up basically with a fire coordinator and emergency management people for 21 years. I've seen this go through several changes over the years, and I have to tell you that emergency management today is nothing that it was back in the year 2000 or the year 2011. For those of you who don't know, you don't get out in the field, and I'm not criticizing you for that, but when we have emergency incidents in the field, Donna and Jackie certainly knows that, we operated under what we call a unified incident command. That's fire, police, EMS, doesn't matter what police department, what EMS department, what fire department. And we work together to mitigate a situation. And quite frankly, when we have larger incidents, what we actually do is bring our resources and our knowledge to the table together. EMS brings the resources that they know. Emergency management has state resources. And quite frankly, most of these incidents, probably 80 to 85, in emergency management don't involve any police department. We've had TCI, we've had all these different occasions over the years, and we've worked together to mitigate these situations, and that's how it's always worked. When it went under the sheriff's department in 2011, I was vehemently opposed to it because I truly thought that these situations not involve a police department, no matter whose police department it went under, and that it should be totally independent to answer to the full board of supervisors that would include both Democrats and Republicans. I just want to address the other situation to Supervisor Holdling in regard to the efficiencies. I'll throw my other hat on as treasurer, but when I came in 2012, and you all know this, we had no fund balance left to speak of. In the years 2008, 9, 10, obviously we went through a dynamic economic situation, not within the county, but in the country as well. And our fund balance that we had prior to that had dwindled down. They basically used about $9 million worth of fund balance in 2 to 3 years to keep taxes down, so on and so forth. So part of the efficiency that was brought about in 2011 was that the sheriff's department, a lot of their equipment that they were going to purchase and put in their budget now slid under the emergency management budget because, quite frankly, we get reimbursed from Fed and state for much of that equipment, and that was the reason for part of that efficiency. And from an economic standpoint, it made sense. But again, we're 10 years beyond that, and those situations will not change. All of their equipment that they need can still be bought through emergency management. Myself as EMS coordinator, Rob Lopez comes to us every year and says, hey, what is it that you guys need? And we'll see if we can write for those types of grants. So just my 2 cents. I just wanted to let you know my thoughts on that. It has nothing to do against Don Kraft or Jackie or politics or anything else. I think we need to do what's right for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, PJ. Is there anybody else that can add a positive to it?
Good, Chairman.
Chairman, you have 6 people on here.
You again. Kippy Weigelt. You're on mute, Kippy.
Kippy, you're on mute.
Kippy, you're on mute.
How about now?
You're good.
Okay. I'm a little frustrated of what I'm listening to. I was on the 4 years ago when we started the complex that we were talking about that we built out there for the fire training center. And I remember sitting with a group of the people that were on the committee saying, hey, we got to make this so it has more offices in it for other things, not just the firemen alone. And back then, we all sat down and said, how many offices in there that we can move into this complex? We'll give them a new complex and they can work together and stuff like that. So all along, I don't remember anybody complaining to us when we designed the building, when the building was going up, when it was dedicated or anything like that. And these offices were figured in way before then. And now all of a sudden we're making them move to a brand new office complex. That's all we're doing. We have 5 people that are moving out of one complex to another complex. It's not going to change the way they work or do anything. We're just giving them a new place to work out of. And I think they deserve that. And I think as far as coordinating with the sheriff's office, the state troopers, the New York State, the federal government, they do everything by computer or by phone anyway. I mean, they know what they're doing. They've been doing a great job. So my opinion is, I think we're just blowing this, we're making a mountain out of this thing that shouldn't be. It's a simple move for 5 people in our company to move to something else. We're always looking for better offices and better everything for our people that work for the county. And now all of a sudden we have a chance to move them into something better for them to help work out. And now we're sitting here trying to stall it for whatever reason everybody's coming up with. It doesn't make sense. We'll move them from one office complex to the other. They'll still be there. They'll still be doing their job. Bottom line. Thank you.
Supervisor Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to first just to thank you and Rob Lagonia for your leadership the last 2 years. And I agree with everything Rob said. And if Rob tells me it's not political, I agree with that. And I thank him wholeheartedly for the time spent by he and his committee handling this crisis. In the law, we have what's called an appearance of impropriety. And here I think we just have an appearance of partisanship, and we should try to avoid that appearance of partisanship. I am one of the non-political independent members of the board. I think that the urgency here is apparent, but it's a bit artificial. Because of Rob's and yours leadership, we've been doing a great job on this crisis. I think we should set a vote for the end of the first quarter of 2022 to make this transition, to give the public and the Board of Supervisors a chance to go through this process and get rid of this appearance of partisanship. I don't believe there's partisanship here. I believe what Rob is telling me. But I think we have an appearance here we need to overcome, and we should overcome that. We should be presenting ourselves as a unified board at this time. It's super important. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Chimides.
Yes, thanks. Thanks everybody for the comments, and Chairman, thank you for clarifying on the timing of the decision. So if I understand correctly, mid-November, after the election, it was decided to move the department, and then it was decided that we would move very rapidly to move the department, as in we would take less. At the time, it was going to be less than a month to make that decision, and now we're potentially extending it to January 3rd. And it makes me still wonder, like, how well has this been researched? So some of the things that I wonder, when that first meeting was discussed, it said that we're the only county that does it this way. I just did it alphabetically. I looked at Albany. It turns out Albany has its management under the sheriff's office.
Well, I do have some updated numbers. We had we did a poll. I asked Kelly to do a poll of the clerks in the state. We got 23 responses. 22 were standalone, and one is moving 2022 to a standalone. So it's going to be 21 to 2 that are standalone. There are 2 that are under the sheriff's department. So out of 23 responses.
And out of those, how them have a board of supervisors instead of like a county manager or executive?
I think it's mixed. I'm looking at the list right now, their board of supervisors, their legislators. There's it's a mixture.
And then out of those, how many also incorporate fire and other emergency services as like a package deal as opposed to emergency management? That's a separate entity of part-time staff.
In some cases, the emergency management office oversees the fire, oversees the other EMS offices, but again, not part of the sheriff's department.
Okay, and then can you also clarify some of the budget numbers? I think I've seen the memo that you sent out on November 22nd versus the fact sheet that came out today versus the actual approved budget seem to have different figures for the total amount of money in that department for both the department and the grants versus what's being referred to in the memo and the fact sheet. And then the major issue that I heard Mr. Harrison talking about was actually about needing to advocate for more funding, was that we need a records management and so potentially need to spend money on records management, and that we're potentially not adequately funding emergency management. And that's the reason why we need to make emergency management a separate entity so we could advocate for that. But then we're also saying that there's not going to be any cost increases. And so I'm still trying to figure out what is it that we're trying to do for emergency management. And I guess this question also leads me to what I think Supervisor Lagonia said, is I think our strength as a county is this, like, we have some really, really hardworking, intelligent, bipartisan work being done. And, Lagonia gave the example of that emergency management committee. And so I'm just kind of wondering if that's really the backbone of where we're getting so much work done. Why not use a committee, if not that emergency management committee, a committee like that, to explore this decision to move forward? It seems like if that's where our track record of success comes from, that would make more sense. But if you can kind of go through the budget numbers and what you see as spending to address Harrison's questions, I would love to hear that.
I'm going to ask Director Harrison to talk about the budget.
Sure. There was operating lines of about $70,000. We took $5,000 of that and put it into payroll. That was $29,000 in the event that we need a part-time clerk in the short term. So the payroll would be $34,000. There's another account, budget line, that's $65,000 that I did talk about in the first meeting, that many of the maintenance agreements for the programs within the sheriff's office is paid out of. So that would stay with the sheriff's office. I think that adds up to about what was said.
So in essence, we're moving $70,000, which is not defunding anything. It's staying for its intended purpose, which the $70,000 or approximately $70,000 is to run the emergency management office.
Okay, so then just to clarify, so $70,000 is moving out of the $169,000 that's in that emergency management line. $90,000 stays under the purview in your proposal, stays under the purview of the sheriff's office, and $70,000 moves into the emergency management, would be under a separate purview, and the emergency management doesn't need any of those things that were left behind in the sheriff's department, like the service agreements or the software. All those expenses are unnecessary for the future of the standalone department. And then the emergency management grants line, the $140,000, is that is managed by the standalone department, or that's managed by the sheriff's department?
There are grants that have to be applied for and managed by emergency management. It's the Homeland Security grant, the emergency management performance grant. Those are all applied for and overseen by Rob Lopez. The grants would not change. Those grant lines are what they are, what they're applied for. A certain percentage has to go to law enforcement each year, which would continue. And but I will say that the sheriff's office has also in the past, on many occasions, grown for grant funding, and they can continue to do that. If they feel that there's a better grant that's applied for under emergency management, we would certainly do that. As far as the operating budget, again, it's about $70,000. The $65,000 line. Well, let me back up. The budget under, as I'm sure you've seen in the budget, if you look under the budget for the sheriff's office, the budget for emergency management is separate. It's its own section. It's separate. And, the budget would move with emergency management.
Well, I guess what I'm confused about is that that budget is $169,000.
Let me finish. Except for the $65,000 line that would go to the sheriff's office, that can remain through the sheriff's office. And
so you're saying
that's where the maintenance agreements are paid for sheriff's office programs that emergency management are not part of.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out. I mean, this is maybe one of the challenges of trying to do this quickly over a meeting is the budget line is $169,000. So all of that except for $65,000 would be moved to a standalone department. Standalone department.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
You're talking about payroll and operating budget. So whatever that is, yes, except for the 65,000. So it would be 34,000 plus about 65,000. That's what would be. That's what would go along with the grant lines, and really, I don't care where they are. They still have to be applied for and managed by emergency management, whether they're under the sheriff's office or with emergency management.
Okay, and then your department doesn't need any of those maintenance agreements. Like if it was independent, you don't need the software, all those things. You don't.
Yeah,
your standalone department wouldn't need any of that.
They are not. Those maintenance agreements are for the jail program, for the current law enforcement program, for the civil program that the sheriff has, and we're not part of those. We're not part of those whatsoever.
Okay.
Chairman Ron Caponera has his hand up. I'm not sure if it's regarding the financial part.
Ron Caponera? Well, yes, it is. Let me just put this real quick, make it clear. Everybody see this? Kelly?
Yes, we see it now.
All right, real quick. Emergency management's always had its own budget line item 3640 ever since I came here. I don't know what probably will happen is I got the numbers here. Right now the budget is 169. If it is moved underneath or from the sheriff, approximately 65,000 will have to come out of 169 and move back up to the sheriff's budget right here at 3110, because the sheriff kind of like threw some expenses, emergency management budget that weren't really his, that were like for ammunition and some contractual costs for software upgrades and maintenance. So 65 would come out of here and move into 3110 sheriff's budget. So his budget would be increased and emergency management would be decreased. And the second thing I want to bring out, that we did this last year because we got audited by the feds on our grants with Rob Lopez and my department. And one thing that came out of that is we needed to keep separate cost centers for all the emergency management grants that Rob Lopez did for hazmat, ship grants and stuff like that. So we had to move over $100,000 out of the EMS grant, and that's why you see all these big negatives coming out. Okay, those are grants that we moved down here to make the feds happy when we do accounting for the feds, and we present the numbers and forth so we can get reimbursed. So there's been transition both sides here for emergency management. Grants coming out, giving its own cost center, and if it does happen, 65,000 would come out of emergency management and up to the sheriff's budget. So that's how it all would work.
And Chairman, just quick, I'd like to point out that those grants that we oversee are not just for law enforcement. They're also for EMS and fire operations and teams and emergency communications and other public safety aspects.
Yep, and Lopez has been excellent on this over the years, and getting all these grants funded and putting them through. And we work closely with Rob and make sure that it's done correctly and so forth. And that's why we had to make this change in accounting structure for it. Okay, thank you, Ron. Supervisor Kirsten? Oh, you're on mute, sir.
Okay. I think we all believe in bipartisanship, something that's so rare in the country today, and because we know that this is what enables us to get things done. There's been a lot of discussion about, are there full-time positions, part-time positions? What are the budget lines? How are things changing, et cetera? And wouldn't it be perhaps a good idea to create a specific proposal that would delineate what this new department would do, along with a table of organization and a specific budget, all in one document that all Board of Supervisors can review. I haven't really heard an argument that persuades me that this is something that needs to be done imminently, but that if we take another month or two to really pull together all of the elements that were discussed today in a clear, crisp proposal and presentation, I think we'd all be better for it. We've been discussing things that we should have known, for weeks now, but are coming to light right now. So that would be my thought, that we step back, do some additional planning, help everyone to understand what the new department will do, how it will be funded, how it will be organized. And then I think we'll all be able to make a decision based on the facts and not supposition. And at that point, the new sheriff will have been in office, and there'll be an opportunity to speak directly with him in his newly elected capacity. So those are my thoughts at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Sheriff-elect Kraft again. I see he's had his hand up. And then I'll go to Supervisor Holtling, and then I think we'll end it there.
Thank you, Chairman. And I too find this extremely difficult in order to keep going back to points that were brought up earlier in the meeting here. However, I'll try to address some of the things that were brought up from my standpoint. Early on, we talked about how many times the emergency management division was restructured. However, we never talked about why it was never discussed on who was going to oversee it for the last 10 years. So I agree, there needs to be restructuring constantly. We find things that don't work, and we restructure it so it does work for the safety and well-being of our community. I have no problem with the fact it's being restructured once again. And like I said before, Jackie and I are all in on making this division with working with Dave Harrison to make this division the best it could possibly be for our residents here in Columbia County. Supervisor Lagoni, I spoke with several department heads to support the emergency management unit, staying within the sheriff's office. I've talked with New York State General Foreman. I've spoke with chiefs of fire departments, and we can go back and forth with who thinks this and who thinks that. But what it comes down to is data. We can all go on opinions, but we need the data. PJ, I just want to address what you said, and I respect the fact that you, have been so open with the fact that you didn't support this from the beginning. However, the sheriff's office is not a police department. It's a public safety office. And we've changed a lot in the last 10 years. We have drone units, we have rope rescue units, we have dive units, we have, a slew of things we never had before that add to the emergency management aspect. These are all things that are going to be required in a time of emergency. I had boots on the ground during snow apocalypse. I was going to dark houses. I was out there delivering or making sure that the PPE was delivered during, this COVID pandemic. So we continue to talk about how well emergency management has done, but we talk about it again as it's a freestanding division or department, and it is not. It is a division of the Columbia County Sheriff's Office, and everyone here represents a town. And I believe, from what I understand, is that every town within this county overwhelmingly voted me as the next incoming sheriff. The people have spoken, and they have spoken for me to oversee the sheriff's office 5 divisions, not 4 or 3 or 2, but 5 divisions of the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office completely. We're not disputing that there may be a need for the move to the fire training center. We'd be open to discussion about it moving there. We'd be open to discussion about a lot of things. However, right now we're just asking for time to review the data. We'd like to hold on to this division. It's worked well in the last 10 years. I understand the chairman has said that, I believe he said 21 counties have responded as not having emergency management underneath their purview. But how many have 911? That's another whole entity. There's 58 counties within the state of New York. How many haven't answered that we need to, reach out and find out what their stance is on it. This is not a political issue. This is not a monetary issue. This is a safety issue for the citizens of Columbia County. We're at 11% right now. We've discussed that. This is not the time to put our citizens at further risk because we're arguing about if a division needs to stay or go. It's been placed under the sheriff's office for 10 years under two-seated sheriffs, and that's where it needs to remain until we can safely and informatively make this decision. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Supervisor Holtling.
Thank you, Chairman. I think this has been a really great discussion. I thank everyone for their time. One common theme that I think is a valid question that there really hasn't been good explanations is why now? Supervisor Eldridge said, hey, somebody tell me what's the rush? And I just want to remind people who either were there or weren't there, when this passed public safety, that was one of my questions to the chairman. I said, what is the difference if this happens now versus in February? And the answer was, there is none. So we have what, again, looks political. I understand that it isn't, which is great, but that's how it looks. The timing is suspect. I think I might likely support the emergency management becoming a standalone unit, but right now is not the time. I urge the chairman and I urge the supervisors who are pushing to make this happen just to hold on a minute. Let the sheriff-elect become the sheriff. Let there be a committee that can give us these comparisons, make it clear who's going to report to who, what goes where, and let us as a board then vote on it in an informed way outside of a rushed, push it through. I'm not going to name a name here, but I was asking someone, why the rush? And it was really, hey, it's kind of easier to do it when there's not someone in that office, in the sheriff's office, to oppose it. And I get it. That makes perfect sense. But doing what's easy isn't always doing what's right. And I urge this board to do what's right. And at the end of the day, I think you're likely going to have the same result, but you're going to have it in a way that's not political, that's supported by evidence, that's supported by data, and that's not taking the easy way out. And I just really encourage the chairman to not rush this and give it the time that it's due. It's a very important decision. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Our numbers are higher than they've ever been. And even if all the data was there to show it was a great decision, I still think right at the peak of the highest cases we've ever had is probably not the time to make that move. I also just quickly wanted to address Supervisor Weigelt, just so everyone's clear, moving the physical location of emergency management to the new fire building is not what we're discussing here. That we have been discussing in public safety. You can move a physical location of an office. We are not discussing that. The proposed resolution that passed through public safety is taking the oversight of the department from where it is currently being overseen, which is the sheriff's office. It's not about the physical location move. They don't have to go hand in hand. You can physically move to a different building and keep the oversight where it is, or you can do both, or you can do just one or the other. But that's not what we're discussing here today, is the physical move to that fire safety building. So thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
I agree.
In closing, I just would like to say that, the feeling I've had through this whole process is the fact that, and this is no slight on the sheriff's department, but they have not really been involved. They've been involved in terms of helping, delivery of masks or delivery of certain supplies, but they haven't really been involved in the decision making. And I believe Supervisor Holtling can address that. This should be under the oversight and I'm not going to say the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, it should be under the oversight of the Board of Supervisors. This is a very, very important department, as we have been discussing, especially during a pandemic. You know what? We have been operating the way we've been operating with little input from the Sheriff's Department on this issue, and we've done a pretty darn good job. You know, so I think take that out of the equation. This was looked at purely as an administrative move, not a political move, an administrative move. And partly it was because, again, the realization that I had throughout my term as chairman, that I had very little contact with the sheriff and the sheriff's department, no matter what the emergency was. It was always directly with David Harrison or Bill Black before David Harrison. And the decisions were made by me as chairman of the board with the consultation of the emergency management office, or with the consultation of the emergency management office and the health department, or the emergency management office and the highway department, depending on what the issue might be. So, I mean, I feel very strongly about this, that it should be a freestanding department, because that's who I've been dealing with. And that's who the EOC committee's been dealing with for the most part, in terms of, you know, any types of emergencies or the pandemic. It's, you know, there's been very little involvement from the sheriff's office. And this is not a slight against Sheriff Bartlett, because whatever help we needed, he provided for us. You know, so if we needed something done, we call him up and he took care of it. So, but he was not a part of a lot of the decision making. So with that, you know, I think we should close. It's been an hour and a half, and I want to wish everybody a happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Nice
Happy New Year.
working with you. See ya.
Happy New Year.